What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto chose revenge over forgiveness? And fell in love with the enemy's daughter? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. It was a beautiful Sunday in Konoha. Summer had settled in nicely and the birds were out chirping. The gorgeous colors of summer were out in full bloom and the laughter of children could be heard among the streets. All was well and Konoha was prospering under the reign of the Rokudame Hokage Naruto Uzumaki. Said Hokage, now 42 years old, was not feeling as great as the weather. He never did on Sundays. Sunday was an important day for him. Sunday usually represented many religious notions for the many different beliefs among the people in the city. However, Naruto himself was not a religious man, despite having a deity feared more than the gods sealed within him. Ironies of bitch, smiled the Hokage as he continued his walk towards his intended destination. The smile he had upon that thought was one of the few genuine smiles he had every Sunday. As explained earlier, the reason for Sundays being a special day for the Rokudame was not due to religion. No, Sundays were not a day for rest or celebration. Rather, Sundays were days where Naruto would reflect, where Naruto would remember. Everyone knew what Rokudame-sama did Sunday in the afternoon. That's why no one complained when he would leave his office. Shikamaru would take over his post because Shikamaru did the same thing only on Saturday instead. The lazy shadow user understood the importance of remembering. He made the same visits as the Hokage did, knowing full well the pain involved within them. He knew how much Naruto needed this time off. It was important enough so that the lazy ass actually went in to cover for the loud, hyperactive, blonde dunce when he needed Sundays off. It would usually be too troublesome for the head of the Nara clan, but then one thought made it worthwhile: gives me an excuse to have some time off from the other hyperactive blonde at home. Shikamaru loved his family, but they seemed to pick up the loud and troublesome tendencies of their mother. Thank God the kids have moved out. I don't think I could take 3 overly loud people under the same roof for much longer, Nara continued thinking. With that said, Shikamaru liked Sundays in the Hokage's office because on Sunday there was barely any paperwork. So with Shikamaru in his place for today, Naruto didn't have to worry about his responsibilities this Sunday and usually every other Sunday. Thus all thoughts of work and everyday annoyances were removed from the Jinchuriki's mind. Naruto's face brought on a sad smile as he arrived to visit his best friend on the same day, at the same place for the past 24 years. "Hey Sasuke," articulated Naruto in a soft voice. "It's Sunday again, in case you were wondering, and you know I'm always here on Sundays." The dark marble gravestone labeled, Sasuke Uchiha, last of the noble Uchiha clan. A victim of fate and tragedy like none other, did not reply to Naruto's verbal greeting, yet that didn't stop the blonde Hokage. Onward continued Naruto with his one-sided conversation. "I came here to thank you again. I know you must be getting sick of it by now. Every weekend for the past 24 years, but you know I can't help but be grateful. I owe you so much, yet people always think that I'm stupid for forgiving you, much less thanking you, and don't start agreeing with them about my stupidity, Uteme, because you know you deserve my thanks," said Naruto. Naruto paused for a moment and sighed, however only for a moment, after which he started talking again. "They would understand why I thank you if they'd been there. If they'd seen how you repaid your crimes tenfold to me. If they understood that I never blamed you once for getting justice for your parents. Okay, I did hate you for a bit after you came back, but you changed that." Naruto paused and smiled as if he heard something funny come from the gravestone and then started talking again. "Of course you repaid your crimes tenfold, don't be modest. The first time you said your body moved on its own accord to save my life from Haku, and then when we were in the hospital after killing Itachi you said." Naruto quieted down as the precious memory came back into his mind. Flashback 25 years ago. Naruto is 16, Sakura and Sasuke are 17 years old. Naruto walked into the hospital room. He had healed the week before due to Kyuubi's accelerated healing abilities. He had not spoken to Sakura or Sasuke since the encounter where the trio had managed to overcome Itachi. Naruto was very bitter. Sakura had started dating him after he had defeated Kakuzu prior to going on the mission alongside Team 8 so that they could track Sasuke and Itachi. Team 8 along with Kakashi and Yamato had managed to kill the Kisame and Team Hubby, excluding Jugo, whom the Konoha ninja discovered was just an innocent being with a serious problem. Jugo was taken back along with them to the village hidden in the leaves and was treated by Tsunade in hopes that one day his problem would leave him and that he could live a normal life and have a family. With Team Hubby out of the way, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke put their problems aside in order to overcome Itachi. All of them had grown intensely and had prospered into amazing ninja for their age. However, Itachi was very powerful and had almost won the fight. Though they had a few close calls, in the end the heroes won. And it was actually Sakura who dealt the finishing blow to the most notorious Uchiha in history. Sasuke had fallen unconscious and was able to be brought back to Konoha by Naruto and Sakura. The two lovers had kept their promises to each other. Naruto in the fact that he had brought Sasuke back, and Sakura in the fact that she had actually helped. She hadn't just been there for moral support, she had finished Itachi and made it possible for the three of them to return safely to Konoha. She had protected the two boys who meant the most to her. Now back in Konoha 1 week later, Naruto was very angry. Though he wasn't surprised. It had been 1 week since Sasuke's return. Naruto had forgiven Sasuke for all the things he'd done to him prior, however he'd never forget. This though was enough. Sasuke had done something Naruto couldn't forgive. Since Sasuke had come back, Sakura hadn't visited Naruto once in the hospital. Not once. Yet he knew she would be with Sasuke. He should have seen it coming. Heck, he knew it was coming, yet he couldn't get the rage out of his system. He was mad at both of them, Sakura and Sasuke. He was mad at Sakura who kicked him out of her life when Sasuke came back, and he was mad at Sasuke for moving in on Sakura when she was his girlfriend. That was why he hadn't visited Sasuke the whole week. He wasn't even sure if he was allowed to be mad. Hadn't he brought Sasuke back for her in the first place? Wasn't this supposed to happen? Then why did Sakura go out with him? Was it pity? Was it to dim her own pain? What kind of pathetic and selfish reason could it be? Naruto authentically believed Sakura had liked him as much as he liked her. He remembered her words exactly and spoke them to himself in mock tone due to the extreme anger he felt. Naruto, I know I've been mean in the past. I've said things I can't take back, and behaved in ways that I'm ashamed to think about. But I've changed, Naruto, and so have my feelings, and though I did love Sasuke-kun. What you've done for me, it hasn't gone unnoticed, and I really believe that I truly love you. Even more so than Sasuke-kun. I want to make you happy. I want to make you as happy as you've made me, Naruto-kun. Squabbled Naruto in a ridiculed, mocking voice. That was exactly what Sakura had said to him in the hospital when she was healing his arm. Well, she did stutter a couple of times, probably due to embarrassment, and there were a few soft sobs when her eyes were watery upon her confession. Nonetheless, Naruto did not dwell on those facts very heavily at all, mostly due to the fact that he himself was consumed in rage. The blonde fumed as he looked for Sasuke's room. 303, 305. There 307 feet, counted Naruto in his thoughts as he arrived upon his intended destination. Oh, the Teme is going to get it now, were the future Hokage's thoughts before he entered the room. As he entered, he saw Sasuke sitting in an upright position in his bed. He had a pillow in behind his back and wore a hurt and softened expression. His expression lightened into what seemed to be an almost genuine smile when Naruto entered the room. Sasuke began to speak. Oi Naru. I don't want to hear it, Teme, interrupted an aggravated Naruto. You always find a way to piss me off, asshole? First it was taunting me when we were younger. Putting yourself above everyone else. Then backstabbing everyone so that you could achieve your own goals no matter who got hurt. Even though the wound in my chest is healed, Sasuke, the pain underneath it still plagues me. Sasuke looked disappointed. I'm sorry. It probably isn't anywhere near enough for you to forgive me though. There are a lot of things about my past that I would have changed if I had the chance. It isn't the past I care about, you fucking idiot, interrupted Naruto for the second time. It's what you're doing right now. Behind my back. I was willing to overlook everything, but now you made me hate you even more. You really are selfish, you know that. I even thought of you as my best friend. What are you talking about, Naruto? Asked Sasuke, looking very confused. Don't play dumb with me, Baka, yelled Naruto. Before Sasuke could retort, the door opened once again and in walked the last person Naruto wanted to see. Oh, Naruto-kun. Finally come to see Sasuke-kun, I see, chuckled Sakura light-heartedly as she walked into the room with her clipboard and in medical attire. She looked as though she hadn't slept in a while and she'd been pulling some late shifts in the hospital. Both these thoughts angered Naruto even more. Don't call me Naruto-kun. And don't smile as if nothing's happened. I can't believe this, Sakura. I can't believe this one bit. I really cared about you, but now you're like trash in my eyes, spat Naruto. Sakura's widened and she gasped in shock. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Naruto seemed really angry with her. Furious was a more accurate description. He even left the "chan" out of her name. Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Why are you so angry at me? Asked Sakura, with shock and despair in her eyes. Why am I angry at you? Why the fuck do you think? You're here with the Temmade cheating on me after everything you told me, growled Naruto. What? Yelled Sakura and Sasuke simultaneously. Don't act dumb, fired Naruto with a raised voice. I knew it was too good to be true. I knew it. Everything I did to make you understand how much I loved you. I wouldn't have been mad if you were honest with me and didn't lead me on like a lost puppy, Sakura. And you, Temmade, you knew I loved her, yet you left and came back just to take her away again. Sakura looked shocked and angry. Naruto, she growled before she was interrupted by Naruto's escalated voice. Don't Naruto me, Sakura. You didn't even visit me once. If not as a lover, then at least as a teammate. I have never ever been more disgusted with you in my entire life, Sakura, never. Roared the blonde. Dobi, listen to Sakura. Sasuke started before being interrupted again. Don't you dare call me Dobi. You don't have the right to look down upon me, you selfish prick. I wish I had let Itachi mop the floor with you. And as for that pink-haired backstabber, I suggest you keep your eye on her. Who knows who she might run off to next? Then it was Naruto's turn to get interrupted. However, this time it was by a very enraged Kunoichi. Naruto, you asshole, how stupid could you get? Spat Sakura as she walked towards him with malice all over her face. Naruto grinned in a pissed-off manner before replying, "Ah, that's the Sakura-chan I know. Back to your old usual self. All we need is for Temmade to get out of the hospital and for Kakashi-sensei to pay him all of his attention and everything will be back to normal. Really, you loved him that much to cheat on me as soon as he came back? You didn't even wait till he was out of the hospital so that the risk of being caught was lowered. Damn, I've been played for a fool. I guess you guys were right, I always was an idiot." Slap. The slap from Sakura wasn't super powered or the kind she used to scold him when he acted like a child. The slap was cold. It was the slap a grown woman gave to a man who acted not only like a fool but a scoundrel as well. Then she looked up into his eyes with her own red, puffy, tear-filled emerald orbs. Despite his anger, Naruto was lost in them like a blind man in the woods during dusk. Void of sound and space. The only recognizable thing was the feeling of being helpless. Then Sakura spoke in a low and angry tone amidst sobs. Sasuke is dying, and I've been here trying my hardest to figure out a way to save him. You haven't called to see how I was doing. You haven't tried to contact me, and when I need support from you whom I love the most, your first thoughts are that I'm cheating on you. Then for her final words, the pitch of her voice went very high as she threatened to break down. It's great to see how much you trust me. I can't save Sasuke. I can't redeem myself for my past in the way I hurt you. You make me feel useless. I hate you, Naruto. She finished as she slammed the clipboard into Naruto's chest, this time with a whole shitload of super strength which sent the blonde crashing into the wall. She left the room and slammed the door violently, which also led to the door breaking. Naruto couldn't move, not due to Sakura's massive push, but because of what he'd heard. Sasuke's dying. Sasuke's dying. Sasuke's dying. That thought just played back in his mind again and again and again. Oh God, breathed Naruto to himself after 5 minutes of silence. Tears flowing out of his eyes as lake water would flow out of a breaking dam. The state of his mind was unimaginable. He felt like a soul lost in space, doomed to spend the rest of his life floating among the darkness. Though there were stars that could be seen, he was powerless to reach them. Powerless bask in the light that taunted him while he floated in the abyss of nothingness. The nothingness which represented his mental state. He looked up towards Sasuke with a deer in headlights expression. Never had Naruto felt so empty in his life before. Sasuke just looked at him with a soft smile that hid deep emotional pain. Why? How? were the only words Naruto could use. The curse seal, replied Sasuke softly. I've used it too much and it's broken my body and immune system down. The pain I got from using it implied that my body naturally fought against its negative chakra. However, using it more and more, my body starts to depend on that chakra to survive. After Itachi died, I used the last of my strength to seal it so that horrid chakra could never course through my body again. It was like a horrible drug, and my body just isn't strong enough to withstand the withdrawal. I sort of saw this coming, but in the end I guess it's what I deserve. No, it isn't what you deserve. Why did you seal your curse seal if you knew it'd do this to you? For another matter, why didn't we seal it earlier before you'd gone to Orochimaru? All of this could have been avoided. Asked Naruto, growing sadder with each passing second. The reason we didn't seal it earlier was simply because we didn't know how. Only Orochimaru knew the secrets of the seal. Once I gave into the seal and upgraded it to level 2, it became too late. I still sealed even though I knew this would happen because the seal was taking over Naruto. It was infecting my mind like poison. It was making me think like Orochimaru. I would rather live my last few days peacefully and calmly within the realm of my own sanity, rather than continue a full life in anarchy. I didn't want to wake up in the morning with the fear of not knowing if I would lose control or not. I was scared I'd hurt my precious people even more than I already have, finished Sasuke calmly. Naruto seethed, not because he was angry with Sasuke's logical explanation, but rather at the fact that fate was so cruel to his best friend. Why? Mumbled Naruto through his tears. In the same way he did when he found out that Zabuza's assistant was Haku so long ago. However, this time the pain was multiplied by thousands. Why do you have to suffer so much? Everything you've had to go through, and finally when it's over, you can't enjoy your life, you get screwed over again. Why? Naruto finished in a very low whisper. Hey Baka, you've had it worse than me, so I don't know why you're complaining about me having it so bad, said Sasuke lightly in a futile attempt to lighten the mood. He failed miserably. No, I haven't had it nearly as bad as you, Sasuke. You had a family. You had everything, but you also had it taken away from you. I have no idea how that feels. I never had anything in the first place. So I couldn't possibly relate to the pain you've gone through, spoke a really depressed Naruto. I may have had it taken away from me, but at least I have memories, Naruto. Even of Itachi. I have good memories of Itachi before the incident. I have memories of my parents. I have memories of being part of a clan. Part of a family. You didn't get that privilege. Not until we became part of Team 7. Even then you knew how it felt to lose something, because of my selfishness. When I left I realized what it must have been like to you, and even now you thought that Sakura left you to come back to me. That must have been painful. I'm sorry. At least you don't got to worry anymore though. She loves you, even more than me, finished Sasuke on a smile. Naruto dropped his head and sighed. He looked back up to Sasuke. Sakura was only driven to me because you left, Sasuke. She may love me now, but I having the feel that she believes she's obligated to care about me. Like she owes it to me. I just want her to look past all that's happened and just care about me. Just love me. Like she used to love you, maybe still loves you. Dobi, replied a slightly aggravated Sasuke, you and I both know that things aren't the same as they were when we were younger. Sakura didn't love me, she had a fangirl crush. She felt the same about me, as almost every other girl in our age group. How can you say that? Exclaimed Naruto. She was willing to leave with you, to help you get power. To throw everything away. She would never have done that for anyone else. Naruto. She was a 12-year-old girl trying to convince her prince to stay with her, said Sasuke with a smile on his face. Now Sakura is a young woman who only tries to please the man who's always kept her happy through her hardest ordeals. That man is you, Naruto. Naruto smiled at Sasuke's kind words but then replied, I don't know, Sasuke. I can't help but feel that she'd be happier with you. I mean, that was one of the reasons I was so passionate about getting you back. That wasn't the only reason, but the tears in Sakura's eyes that day. I saw how much she needed you, and that's it right there. She needed me. Past tense. She needs you now and she loves you now. You changed, I changed. Why doesn't she have the right to change? Interrupted Sasuke. How did I change? Asked a bewildered Naruto. Easy, replied Sasuke with a smirk. You don't hide your potential behind that shit-eating grin anymore, Dobi. You're actually pretty damn strong, prime real estate for becoming the next Hokage. Naruto's eyes widened even more. Now let me repay you for everything you've done for me, said Sasuke with a smile. Then he pressed the nurse buzzer at the side of his bed and spoke, Sakura, could you come here for a second please? Sakura responded through the speaker, what do you need, Sasuke-kun? Could you bring me some tomatoes or something? I'm pretty hungry. I mean, if it's no trouble or you don't have any other patients you have to see, asked Sasuke. Okay, no problem, Sasuke-kun. I'll be there in a minute, replied Sakura. After Sasuke released the buzzer which allowed him to talk to the nurses, Naruto frantically asked, what are you planning to do? Don't bring her back in here, she'll rip my nads off, Sasuke. Don't worry, Baka, you'll thank me for this, retorted Sasuke just before Sakura entered the room. Oh, you're still here, sneered Sakura, her eyes still red from crying as she growled at Naruto. Yeah, I'm still here, replied Naruto with a sigh. The guilt of his accusation still weighing down on his mind. Sakura walked over to Sasuke's bed and handed him a small plastic bowl filled with cherry tomatoes. She said, here you go, Sasuke-kun, if you need anything else, just use the buzzer and… well, you know, we'll try to make things as comfortable as possible for you. Sakura, if you don't mind, could you stay here for a bit? We sort of want to talk to you about something important, asked Sasuke cautiously as not to stir the pink-haired powerhouse's anger. I'm not talking to him, said Sakura as she pointed to Naruto, who still sat on the floor with his back to the wall. Naruto just snorted as if life itself was too troublesome to deal with. Oh god, I've become Shikamaru, thought Naruto to himself. HMPH, snorted Sakura back as she crossed her arms and turned her face away from Naruto. You too, please. Just get over it for a bit so that we can talk about this, exhaled Sasuke in an annoyed manner. Talk about what? Asked Sakura, now turning her head towards Sasuke with curiosity etched across the beautiful features of her face. Naruto has some issues that he has to resolve because he's too stubborn to come to terms with what's thrown in his face, said Sasuke. Hey, I never said that, pointed Naruto towards Sasuke as his eyes grew wide and round in a very anime fashion. Yeah, Sasuke waved him off, then he turned to Sakura before speaking, now Sakura, I want you to be completely honest with me and Naruto. Don't try to sugarcoat anything for the sakes of our feelings. What? Asked Sakura before Sasuke cut in. Are there any doubts or any regrets about your relationship with Naruto? If you had the power, would you turn back time? Would you change anything at all? Are you happy with Naruto, or would you rather have been with anyone else? Would you have been more happy with me? Do you wish you could change things? Asked Sasuke slowly. What do you mean? How could you ask something so? I don't know what to tell you, stammered Sakura, now conscious of the fact that she had been put on the spot. Just tell me, tell us the truth. We won't judge you in any way. Naruto's already assumed the worst for his situation, said Sasuke. Sakura looked at Naruto with very hurt eyes. Naruto's assumed the worst, I don't know who this is and what he's done with Naruto, because the Naruto I fell in love with would never have thought of the worst case scenario. Well, this isn't the worst case scenario, retorted Naruto. I brought Sasuke back for you. Heck, I made that promise for you. Now that he's here, you expect me to believe that you don't want to be with him? After we fought so hard to bring him back, after you shed so many tears for him, did you expect me to think that you forgot about him right away? Sakura shot back, you didn't expect me to forget about him. Did you expect me to forget about everything we went through together? All the things you did for me? Did you really think I would be so cold-hearted? How about the first time I slept over at your place when you came back from your training, and I whispered Sasuke's name in my dream and I felt so bad, but you didn't yell at me or turn me away, you just understood? Did you think I'd overlook things like that? Did you expect me to forget about those things? Those are things more precious to me than young childish feelings ever were or will be. Then Sakura gasped and she turned to Sasuke. I'm sorry, Sasuke-kun. I didn't mean to. No, it's a light, Sakura, chuckled Sasuke. Not offended in the least. You still didn't answer the question, mumbled Naruto with expression of a kid who was just put on a timeout after doing something naughty. Sakura sighed and held the bridge of her nose. No, Naruto. There isn't anything I'd change, okay? Well, maybe I might change a few things so that Sasuke wouldn't be in this situation. But And I know this is selfish, but I'm glad some of these things happened the way they did, Naruto-kun. Sakura's expression softened and tears of joy started to stream down her face. I'm glad that you were able to open my eyes to what an ignorant person I was, and that allowed me to see what I was missing all of these years. The love I was overlooking, that always cushioned my falls and catapulted me over the obstacles which stalled me during my life. Sakura then walked over and sat beside Naruto. She wrapped one arm around his neck and brought his head close to her so she could whisper in his ear, "I love you, not anyone else. You." And as she finished talking, the two of them leaned into each other and started kissing passionately until Sasuke coughed to let them know he was still in the room. Naruto and Sakura looked up towards Sasuke with blushes on their faces. "Sorry," mumbled the two lovers. "By the way, Naruto, you said that me liking Sasuke wasn't the worst case scenario. If that's so, what was the worst case in your mind?" asked a curious Sakura. Naruto smiled and replied, "Well, if you decided to ditch Badavis and went for fuzzy brows." A huge vein popped on Sakura's forehead. Naruto just laughed like a child. And Sasuke shook his head. The nurse buzzer then went off and a medic requested that Sakura go help with a minor surgery. Sakura got up and said goodbye to the boys. She kissed Naruto once more on the cheek before leaving. Naruto then slowly walked over to Sasuke's bed and sat down in a chair beside it. After doing so, said blonde proceeded to ask Sasuke, "Why did you do that? I mean, what did you win by doing that?" Sasuke smirked, "Naruto, I guess I'm just trying to repay my debts." He. I know you. You would have been second-guessing your relationship with Sakura for ages if I didn't call her in here to make it clear to you that she loves you and not me. Naruto smiled in appreciation. "You don't have to repay any debts to me, Sasuke. I'm not doing it because I feel I have to do it. I want to do it. It makes me feel happy, I guess, to repay you for the kindness you've shown me and, well, everyone else," said Sasuke. Then he continued, "I want to make sure that you're able to forgive me for everything before I die." Sasuke. Naruto. I mean it. I know you're going to say that there is nothing to forgive and all, but if not for your peace of mind, then for my own. I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't till give back for everything I've taken or done, okay? Spoke Sasuke in a stern voice. Okay. Oh, and by the way, happy belated 17th birthday, Teme. Sorry it's a week late, replied Naruto softly. Funny how we killed Itachi and brought Teme back to Konoha on his birthday, thought Naruto. Thanks, not worries about that. I'll let you make up for it, and as for my method of letting you know how Sakura felt, my excuse is that my consciousness reacted on its own accord, smirked Sasuke. You said your consciousness reacted on its accord, spoke the 42-year-old Hokage amidst a soft chuckle. You also told me that you wouldn't forgive yourself until you paid me back for everything, even when I tried to tell you it was okay. He. Maybe it's that old Uchiha pride, no? Laughed Naruto. I guess this special Sunday I just wanted to remind you that you did pay me back for everything. When you stabbed me in the chest, part of your Chidori got my heart, but you paid me back by, brashly may I add, confirming that Sakura loved me, truly. That has saved my heart from more pain than your Chidori has ever caused. You repaid that debt, confessed Naruto. When you left, you also took away the only brother I ever had, the comfort of knowing that someone would be there for me until then end. Of course Sakura-chan didn't love until a little while after, so I still felt somewhat alone at that time. Do you remember when you paid me back for that? Naruto smiled and he breathed out gently in tune with slight summer breeze. So happy was this memory that one tear slipped down the Hokage's face. I'll never forget that night, Teme. That was one of the fondest memories I've ever had, or will ever have. Flashback 25 years ago. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke are 17 years old. 6 months after Sasuke's return. Knocking could be heard at the front doors of the Uchiha compound. Sasuke got up from his couch slowly and with more effort than a boy his age should require. He grabbed his crutches and slowly went for the door. God, I hate how helpless I feel these days, thought one Sasuke Uchiha, though Sakura tells me I'm very lucky that I can still move, let alone walk with crutches. Oi Teme. What's up? Said Naruto as Sasuke opened the door to his giant and magnificent home. The blonde stepped in from the snowy and frigid temperatures of the winter cold. Nothing, Dobi, now hurry on over, I want to show you something. Sasuke said as he turned around and headed for his couch as Naruto closed the front door and removed his boots before following his best friend. Naruto came to the huge living room and sat down in the single reclining seat which he had unofficially labeled as his seat for the past 6 months of visiting Sasuke. Across the coffee table Sasuke lay down in a double set. "What did you want to show me?" asked Naruto as he rubbed his hands together in an attempt to warm them up after coming in from outside. "Before I show it to you, I want to ask you something," said Sasuke. "Shoot," replied Naruto as he was reclining slowly on his favorite seat. "When do you plan on marrying Sakura?" Naruto shot up so quickly that he was almost catapulted out of the seat in pure surprise from Sasuke's questions. What?" stammered the blonde youth. "You heard me, Dobi," edged Sasuke. "I dunno, like I want to wait till I become Hokage, until I have enough money so that I could take care of my family and all. Not to mention that we're way too young, like come on Teme, we're only 17 and well I plan to wait till I'm at least 20, answered Naruto. Like I thought, said Sasuke in a matter-of-fact tone. Naruto didn't like that tone. He grunted and spoke in an angry childlike fashion. "Well, I just became Anbu recently. It's not even like I've been working long enough to save some dough for a decent ring for Sakura. That's why I asked you over here today," admitted Sasuke. "Huh?" was Naruto's simple response. Sasuke's face took on depressed expression. "Look, I am not asking you to get married. Per se. It's just that I won't be around when you're 20, Naruto. I only have a couple of months left." "Sasuke," mumbled Naruto, hurt with the fact that he knew his best friend was dying and that his time with him was running out little by little every day. "Hey, don't worry," said Sasuke softly. "I just wanted to ask you a favor. It's really important to me and it's something I really want to see before I pass away." "Anything," exclaimed Naruto passionately. "Could you and Sakura, maybe, have a small, unofficial wedding ceremony? Just us from Team 7. I know it won't count or anything, but please, I know I won't be here to see you become Hokage, Naruto, and I want to see at least one of your dreams along with one Sakura's dreams come true," spoke Sasuke quietly. "We can have Kakashi marry you too, and I don't know, I just really want to fill these last days with as many happy memories as I can, Naruto. I'll understand if it's too much to ask." "I'm willing to do it, Sasuke," answered Naruto shortly, then continued, "but I can't do it right away. Even though this may be the unofficial wedding, it'll be the real because the people who matter will be there. I know it's unofficial and all, but I still want to get her the ring she deserves, you know? So you'll wait 1 or 2 months so I can take some heavy-duty missions to pay that ring off." "When did you plan on having this little ceremony anyway?" "Well, I was thinking this weekend, on Saturday," spoke Sasuke with a smile. "You're nuts," yelled Naruto. "Nothing short of a cage assassination will bring me that much loot in 3 days. I know I made Anbu, but you gotta give these things time, Sasuke." Sasuke chuckled again. "Don't worry, Dobi, there's another reason I called you here. Now before you protest, like I know you will, you have to hear me out, okay?" "Yeah, sure," answered Naruto, curiosity getting the better of him. "Naruto, I mean it, don't go nuts right away," said Sasuke, stressing his point. Okay, hurry up and tell me what it is," beamed Naruto. "What a child," thought Sasuke. "Okay, I planned this wedding ceremony for this Saturday because I already got you and Sakura wedding rings." "Oh Sasuke, why do you go on and do that?" yelped Naruto. "You said you were going to listen, Baka," growled Sasuke. Naruto shut up and Sasuke continued. "I got these because the Uchiha clan had tons of money left over and I didn't know what to do with it. I gave a shit load to the orphanage, but the money keeps coming in probably from some political bullshit I was too lazy to look into, and you know since I had it, and I wanted to see you guys get married and all. I thought it would be nice." "Yeah, it's really thoughtful of you, Sasuke, but come on, you didn't have to do that and not to be rude or anything, I sort of wanted to be the one to get my wife her wedding ring," replied Naruto. "I understand completely, but try to hear me out, okay?" asked Sasuke. Naruto just nodded to get Sasuke to continue. Sasuke spoke again. You're going to have your whole life to make Sakura happy, Naruto. You've always made her happy. I know this is really selfish and I understand if you get really mad at me, but I never did anything to make Sakura happy when we were younger. She struggled so hard to get me to acknowledge her and I spat it back in her face. Let me do this for her, please. You're not the only one whom I want to pay back. I feel that for once I should make her happy, like she tried so hard to make me happy." With that, Sasuke reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. He handed the box to Naruto. Naruto opened the box and saw the dazzling ring Sasuke had gotten. It was a ring he'd seen before in the jewelry stores and had thought of one day purchasing himself. It was a gold band with a pink diamond at the top, which was circled by some smaller white ones. It was magnificent, one of the few rare beauties that may be worthy of resting on Sakura's hand. Naruto's expression softened, and he caved. "Okay Teme. One more thing," added Sasuke. "Don't tell her I bought the ring." "Huh, come on, that's too much," said Naruto. "I mean it, don't tell her. I'm not doing this to make her happy so she can thank me. Her happiness alone is worth it," said the last Uchiha. "You really care about her Teme?" said Naruto as his genuine smile shone through. "Almost as much as you do," replied Sasuke, which is too much to be considered healthy. Both boys shared a laugh together. After that the two ate some dinner and discussed other topics. Then it was time for Naruto to leave in hand in a mission report of some sort, after which he would take Sakura on a date. He said goodbye to the dark-haired Uchiha prodigy and left the massive compound. As Naruto finished handing in his mission report, along with bickering with Tsunade, he headed down to the hospital to pick Sakura up. As he walked up to the front desk, the secretary recognized him and told him that Sakura was in her office. Naruto knew where that was and thanked the lady before continuing to Sakura's office. He knocked and waited for a reply before entering. When he heard, "Come in," Naruto opened the door. He was met by a very tired, yet relieved Sakura. "Hey Sakura-chan, how was your day?" asked Naruto. "Stressful, had to do another surgery today, but it was a success Shanaru," replied the kunoichi, finding strength and enthusiasm in the presence of her boyfriend. "Well, good job, you're always getting better and stronger. I really proud," exclaimed Naruto with a grin. "Ah, thank you Naruto-kun," said Sakura with a blush before jumping into his arms and pulling him into a playful hug. "Now that my shift is over, get me out of here and take me on that date." "My pleasure," responded Naruto as him and Sakura started to tussle playfully with each other. Naruto squeezed Sakura's waist as he knew she was ticklish there, and the pink-haired goddess yelped in surprise and delight. Amongst all the sad times and tears and even during Sasuke's hopeless and depressing situation, Naruto still found ways to bring laughter out of Sakura's mouth. When they finally settled down, Sakura asked playfully, "So Naruto-kun, where will you be taking me tonight? And before you answer, you better not say ramen." Naruto smiled. "Don't worry Sakura-chan, I know you don't want ramen. We're going to Bodasai's tonight." "Bodasai's sushi? How did you get reservations over there?" asked Sakura with content written all over her face. Sushi was Sakura's favorite food. "I left reservations earlier because I knew you liked the place, so it wasn't much trouble," responded Naruto, happy with the fact that Sakura was pleased with his choice. "Oh Naruto-kun, that's so sweet that you know the things I like," said Sakura as she hugged him and gave him a small and soft kiss on the lips. "You're the best," she whispered. He, chuckled Naruto as a blush made its way across his face. "I just try my best is all. Now let's get going. Wouldn't want to pull a Kakashi and be late." Sakura smiled and the two put on their jackets and left for the restaurant. As Naruto and Sakura arrived on time and took their seats, they made their orders. First off, they just ordered some tea to warm up from the cold winter weather. As the nurse left, Sakura was rubbing her hands to try and warm them up. "Are you cold Sakura-chan?" asked Naruto with a hint of concern. "My hands are just a little chilled," responded Sakura with a smile. Naruto simply placed his hands in the middle of the table with his palms facing upwards. Sakura understood what he was implying and placed her smaller hands in his larger ones. As Naruto gently closed his hands around hers, while caressing her knuckles his thumbs, Sakura felt all the warmth seep into her hands. She closed her eyes in pleasure as the cold, uncomfortable feelings left her hands completely, and she basked in the warmth that Naruto always seemed to give her. "So warm. He's always been so warm," thought Sakura. Sakura opened her eyes and smirked at Naruto. "You're evil for bringing me here, you know that?" she playfully told him. "How so?" answered Naruto, clearly getting the clue that Sakura was joking. "You know that I can't help myself when I'm around sushi, that I love it as much as you love ramen," smiled Sakura. "This isn't helping my diet Naruto." I don't understand why you're even on this diet. You're not fat. I've seen your flat stomach, and your cute little abs," chuckled Naruto as Sakura blushed. "Do you want to see these cute little abs disappear?" asked Sakura playfully. "They won't disappear. Sushi isn't that bad for you, and you spend a lot of calories in between training, work and sparring. You'll be fine, my rosette goddess, you have nothing to worry about," finished Naruto. "I'm not a goddess, Naruto," said Sakura with an annoyed tone, even though butterflies were flying around in her stomach when Naruto called her that. "You are to me, and to every straight male in Konoha," replied Naruto. Sakura blushed and looked down because of her embarrassment. Finally the tea came and Sakura and Naruto had to let go of each other's hands, reluctantly, so that the waiter could place their order down on the table. After getting their tea, both teens ordered their preferred sushi and returned to their discussion. "So, Naruto started speaking once more, I wanted to ask you something really important." Responded Sakura as she was sipping some tea. Naruto breathed in slowly and began to cautiously bring up the discussion he and Sasuke had gone over earlier. It's sort of hard to explain, and it's really awkward." "Just get on with it, Naruto-kun," said Sakura, never one for patience. Okay, said Naruto. "I was at Sasuke's place earlier today." Naruto paused to sip on some tea. "And what?" Sakura smirked. "You were cheating on me with him," joked the kunoichi. Naruto nearly spit out all of his tea and a giant anime expression was plastered all over his face. Then he calmed down. "No. He asked me to do something." "Well, okay, how do I go about explaining this?" "Sakura, will you marry me?" This time it was Sakura's turn to spit out the tea in her mouth. Cough, cough, what? Naruto waved his hands in a defense fashion. No, I don't mean to actually get married. Well, I'm going to marry you one day, but I want to be at least 20 and I want to save some more cash first. It's just that Sasuke said he wasn't going to be around when you and I are ready to get married officially. So he sort of wanted us to have an unofficial ceremony so he could be there to at least see us together. To see us realize our dream in some way before passing on. I mean, if it ever was your dream to marry me, 'cause it's always been my dream, but I'll understand if you don't feel." "Yes," said Sakura, cutting into Naruto's rambling with a warm smile, "I'd love to." "Well, that's good to hear," replied Naruto with an expression of relief on his face. "I even got a ring for the occasion," said Naruto as he stretched his hand across the table and handed Sakura the small black box. Sakura gasped as she opened the box and looked up at Naruto. She took the ring out and carefully felt it with the tips of her fingers, admiring the sheer beauty it presented. "Naruto," she said quietly, "I know you didn't buy this ring, you just joined Anbu. There is no way you could have afforded this ring so soon." Naruto sighed. This was what he was afraid of. "You're just as smart as you are beautiful, Sakura-chan. You're right, I didn't get you that ring, there was no way I could have afforded it right now." "Then how did you get this?" pondered Sakura out loud. "Sasuke got it for you," answered Naruto shortly. "And you accepted it?" asked Sakura bewildered. "I didn't at first, Sakura-chan, believe me," said Naruto, understanding why Sakura got a little worked up at the notion. "I refused, but what he said, Sakura-chan, it got to me. Sasuke he's going to die, and the last bits of happiness in his life come from our time together. He wants to have as many great memories as he can in the short time he has left. So he told me that getting this ring for you, it mattered to him, because he hadn't done anything to return your kindness when we were younger. So he told me he wanted to make you happy." Naruto paused a bit before continuing, "and I didn't want to take that away from Sasuke. Also, I knew this was better than anything I could get you at the moment, and that you would like it, so I just wanted to see a smile on your face, Sakura-chan." "I'm sore." Naruto couldn't finish because Sakura rushed around the table in a pink blur and caught him in a hug as she sat on his lap. Naruto had made reservations for seats in a more private section of the restaurant, so there weren't many people to look at the scene which was unfolding. Naruto could feel Sakura's tears on his neck as she whispered in his ear, "Don't apologize. You're always thinking about others. I know it must have been hard for you to take a ring another man bought and give it to me, so that the last bit of time he has with us could be pleasant. I also know you swallowed your pride so that you could make me happy with this. It means a lot that you do that for me, Naruto-kun, it really does. So I'll accept, but on only one condition. Whatever will make you happy, Sakura-chan," said Naruto. Sakura continued to whisper, After this, after Sasuke passes away. When we get married officially, I want you to get me another ring, one from you. It doesn't have to be nice or anything. Don't worry, said Naruto with a smile. I was already planning on doing that, and by the time we get married, I'll get you the nicest ring you've ever seen. I just want you to wear this in remembrance of Sasuke. Okay, answered Sakura contentedly. Then she went back to her seat right before the waiter came with their order. Once they started eating, Naruto asked Sakura another question. Sakura-chan, why do you call me Naruto-kun? Asked Naruto. Sakura looked at him with confusion on her face. Do you not like it when I call you Naruto-kun? No, it's not that, Naruto said while smiling, it's just that you always used to call me Naruto before, and I was always fine with it. You don't have to call me Naruto-kun now that you're dating me or anything. Naruto-kun, I'm just trying to be polite like you've always been to me in the way that would call me Sakura-chan, answered Sakura. Well, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Suffixes don't really matter to me. I can tell you love me just the same by you calling me Naruto, as you would by calling me Naruto-kun, said the blonde. I just want you to act naturally around me. I call you Sakura-chan not because I try to be polite, but because that's how I've always known you, as Sakura-chan. It is just natural to me, and I want you to feel natural around me as well. Sakura smiled, always thinking about my comfort. I love you, Naruto. I don't need to add the kun for you know that. I'm glad you can understand me so well, okay Naruto. Hey, you're right, this does feel more natural, laughed Sakura lightly. Naruto just smiled and got lost in the beauty that he had always cherished. It was now Saturday evening and Naruto had just finished a Hunter Nin-style mission. He was running a bit behind schedule but he'd make it on time, he wouldn't miss this for the world. He got home and changed into a nice suit he had bought with some of the money he'd raked in with these short-term Hunter Nin missions. They weren't fantastic missions, but they were the only missions that were S-rank and could be done within the day, usually because they dealt with tracking down missing Nin within the area, killing them, and burning their bodies. It wasn't nice, but Naruto had to make money, right? So with that done, and now in his new suite, which was all black and made Naruto look quite nice if he said so himself, Naruto made his way to small chapel where the ceremony was going to be held. It was now dark out and Naruto arrived upon the desired location. He made his way inside, and the sight knocked all of the air out of his lung. There stood Sakura in a beautiful red dress. Naruto and the rest had known Sakura wouldn't be in a wedding dress, because this was just between them, yet Sakura managed to stun everyone with how gorgeous she looked. There on the altar she stood waiting for Naruto. Sasuke was sitting down in the front row of seats and Kakashi was beside Sakura where the minister would usually stand. Naruto made his way up to the altar and stood beside Kakashi. He looked down at Sasuke and noted how brightly he was smiling. Just as they were ready to get things underway, the chapel door creaked open again and Naruto looked up surprised. Then he looked at Kakashi who smiled and simply said, "You said all of Team 7 was going to be here, right?" And Naruto smiled back, as Yamato and Sai entered the chapel and took their seats next to Sasuke. As Kakashi continued with the proper words to carry out the marriage, the two young shinobi spoke their beautiful vows of loving, protecting, and healing each other for the rest of their lives. All of Team 7 was consumed in the beauty and emotion of that night. It was one Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi would never forget. A tear hit the ground as the Hokage remembered that night vividly in his mind. He relived it, the emotion and feeling, as it brought back memories of the few good times Team 7 had as a whole. That night meant so much to me, Teme. Yet I could tell it meant a whole lot more to you. Thanks for being my best man. You returned that brotherly bond that night, and repaid the fact that you took it away in the first place, sighed Naruto. That's two things you've given back, Sasuke. The village leader stopped talking for a moment. As he swayed in the soft summer breeze, he closed his eyes and inhaled the scent of summer. It was a shame that such painful, yet wonderful, memories would come back on such a beautiful. Most Sundays had the annoying tendency of being beautiful, Naruto found for the past 25 years. Naruto sighed again. Sasuke, you've done enough to repay for your mistakes. You even did more. You've given me so much in your last days. I remember the day you decided to give me your dreams, Sasuke. That was one of the most precious gifts I ever received from anyone. Ever, explained the current Hokage. Flashback 25 years ago. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke are 17 years old. 11 months after Sasuke's return. Sasuke had started to grow very weak by now. His time was almost up, he had a little over a month left to live. He had now been moved to the hospital permanently so that he could receive more immediate medical attention. Naruto and Sakura entered Sasuke's room as they would usually whenever they had free time to spare. They each smiled towards Sasuke as they moved towards his bed where the Uchiha was lying down. "Oi Teme, how's it going?" asked Naruto cheerfully. "I've been better Dobi, but I've been worse as well," replied Sasuke softly. Sakura and Naruto looked at Sasuke. They could see that he was growing really weak. The flair and strength the young man once had was dying down like a candle with none but a little wax left to keep its flame alive. This image of a weak and vulnerable Sasuke broke Sakura and Naruto's heart. They couldn't bear it. Yet they had to be strong, if not for their own sake, then for Sasuke's. "I was wondering if I could ask you guys another important favor." Sasuke broke the silence. "More important than the wedding favor I asked you. It's also a little selfish as well, but I also ask for it because I want it to be a gift to you." "What favor is it, Sasuke-kun?" asked a curious Sakura. "Yeah, what do you want, Teme?" followed up Naruto. Sasuke stalled for a second, which gave a hint as to how hard this request was on the boy. I want to give you guys my eyes." "What?" stammered Naruto and Sakura at the same time. "I want to give you to my Sharingan." Lately it's become harder and harder to activate, and it won't be long before it is lost to the world," said Sasuke. "What, like you want to give one to me and one to Sakura-chan?" asked Naruto confused. "Yeah Sasuke-kun, what do you mean by giving them to us?" continued Sakura. "No, I don't want you two to use them. I want them to be used to their full potential, and well, Naruto's fighting style wouldn't really be elevated by the Sharingan, and Sakura doesn't have the chakra to deal with it open all the time," answered Sasuke. "I was hoping you could give these eyes to your firstborn child." Naruto and Sakura flushed at the idea of having a kid. They still hadn't had yet, so the thought of a child was a very intimate topic. Then Naruto spoke out again. "But Sasuke, our kid isn't an Uchiha. He wouldn't be able to use the eyes properly and they'd strain him. Not if you take them and put them into him as an infant. Remove my eyes while the Sharingan isn't active, and then put them in your child when it is born. Put a seal on its eyes so it can't activate them till it's in its teens. That way it will be similar to how an Uchiha has to mature to activate the Sharingan. If you take these steps, the child's body will adapt to the bloodline slowly and it will be as if the eyes belonged to an Uchiha," explained Sasuke, which made it evident that he had been thinking on the topic for a long while. "Sasuke, are you sure that'll work?" asked Naruto skeptically. "I am pretty confident. This is the reason that the Hyugas use the caged bird seal on their branch clan members. To avoid this possibility. However, the Uchihas didn't worry about this because it was rare that an Uchiha was able to unlock Sharingan in the first place, and even if they'd succeeded, Uchihas were very hard to defeat in battle, so their eyes could not be taken in a perfect state," spoke Sasuke. "Naruto," said Sakura as she was looking out the window in the hospital room, "the body does slowly adapt to the Sharingan and Byakugan. Ever since I started training as a medic, I've been looking through Team 7's files in case there was a special case I had to know about during a mission if one of the team was hurt. Looking through Kakashi-sensei's past and present medical documents, I've seen that he can handle Sharingan a lot better than he used to. This is probably due to the fact that he had it in him as a youth, so over time, a long time it may have been, his body adapted to his Sharingan. When we first fought Zabuza, Kakashi-sensei could barely use the Sharingan. Later, after you came back from your training trip, Kakashi-sensei's use of his eye grew exponentially to the point where he could use it a couple of times during battle and not be forced into an immobile state. Such was the case when we faced Kakuzu. Kakashi-sensei had his Sharingan on during the whole process." Sakura sighed as she leaned down on the window's edge with her elbows supporting her upper body. The fact that Kakashi-sensei unlocked Mangekyo Sharingan was all the proof I needed to make that diagnosis. You can't unlock Mangekyo unless you have Uchiha blood, so somehow Kakashi-sensei's body must have reacted like an Uchiha's. Sasuke is right. If we give a child Sharingan eyes while they aren't activated, then the body won't fight them very much because it won't recognize the difference. Then slowly the body will adapt and possibly the child would be able to use Sharingan to its full potential as it matures. Wow, Sakura-chan, beamed Naruto with wide eyes. You're always getting smarter, stronger and learning more. I'm jealous. Sakura smiled with a blush in appreciation to Naruto's compliment, then her face soured again. But Sasuke-kun, I don't want my child to have Sharingan. The temptation to unlock Mangekyo might cause him to do bad things. I know Naruto and I will do our best to raise the child so it grows up to be a good person at heart, but that temptation will always be there. Sasuke smirked, don't worry Sakura-chan, I've already unlocked Mangekyo, so your kid won't have to worry about that kind of thing. Once the eyes have been unlocked they can be used by someone else. Naruto's face grew scrunched from confusion. When did you do that? You didn't kill me. When you came after me again while I was under Orochimaru, the look on your face made me think I'd emotionally killed the Naruto I once knew. I believe I attained it in the same way Kakashi-sensei attained his. Kakashi-sensei believed it was his fault that he couldn't change my views on vengeance and that ultimately meant it was his fault that I went off to Orochimaru, and so the Sasuke he knew died. And well you know the rest, explained Sasuke. I see, lied Naruto. He didn't understand what the fuck Sasuke was saying but it was okay to play smart once in a while. Everyone in the room stayed quiet for a few minutes to think about what had just transpired. Something was bothering Naruto which led him to voice his thoughts. Sasuke, why are you giving us your Sharingan? Asked Naruto. Sasuke breathed out heavily, he knew this question was coming. Naruto, I know this may be selfish but please try to understand me. I've gone through so much grief because of these damn eyes. Everything from my family being murdered, to my whole life being a vendetta was because of these eyes. I want some good to come from these blasted things. If not in my lifetime, then in the one after mine. I want these eyes to protect people, like they used to. I'm also a little selfish Naruto. I want to bring glory back to the name Uchiha and I can't do that, but I owe it to my parents Naruto. I know you'll train to make you children amazing ninja like you so I feel assured that at least one of them will be able to use these eyes to get the world to remember the name Uchiha, even after the last real Uchiha passes on. Kakashi-sensei is doing it pretty well, when he uses his eye people remember the Uchiha name. The eye is a remnant that will at least let us not wither away in time Naruto. So please Naruto, I'm not only entrusting my eyes to, but my dreams as well. I'm entrusting you with my will and my soul. Finally I want to be able to see you and Sakura after I die, and even though it will be through the thoughts of you child, it will be through my eyes. Naruto's breath was caught in his throat. He was honored at the notion that Sasuke had so much faith and trust in him. It'll be my pleasure to have you live on through my family Sasuke, replied Naruto genuinely. With that Sakura set up a surgery to remove Sasuke's eyes and replace them with a set of normal eyes. The operation went smoothly. Naruto and Sakura placed a jutsu on the eyes so that they could be preserved until the time they be put in Naruto's firstborn child at birth. What I'd give to relive some of those times Teme, spoke Naruto as he finished recalling that latest memory, those were good times. Naruto shuddered at the next memory as this one was the most painful of them all. Then there was the time you left us Teme, whispered the Kyuubi's jailer. Flashback 24 years ago. Naruto is 17, Sakura is 18, and Sasuke is 18 years old. 1 year after Sasuke's return. The day was beautiful. It was gorgeous, it was the most fucking spectacular day Naruto could remember, in terms of the weather. Naruto sighed contently as he awoke in his new apartment, the sunlight creeping in through the window and washing over his face. He had moved in with Sakura 1 week ago. He was getting used to the new lifestyle pretty quickly. He sat up and looked to his left. There lay Sakura sleeping. Her breaths were soft as her small body expanded slightly with the intake of air, then shrunk again and the air left through her slightly parted lips. Naruto lay back down, but on this side this time. He scooted closer to Sakura. He brought his face up close to her so that their noses were almost touching one another. He could feel her warm breath graze his face softly. Naruto thought Sakura was unbearably cute when she slept. Then unexpectedly Sakura, still asleep, shifted her position so that her head was tucked underneath Naruto's chin and their bodies were in close contact with one another. Naruto managed to keep his arousal down because he really didn't want to ruin the moment. He was in nothing but boxer shorts and Sakura only had a bra and some underwear on. Naruto wrapped his hands around Sakura and slowly kissed her neck in an attempt to wake her up calmly. It worked as Sakura moaned in pleasure. She looked up at Naruto with a tender smile only reserved for him. "Good morning, sunshine," said Naruto with glee. "Good morning," replied Sakura warmly as she cuddled up closer to Naruto. Then as she was feeling a little playful, she started to tickle and poke Naruto, who in return laughed out hysterically. Naruto jerked away from her poking and grabbed her wrists. "You're a naughty girl, Sakura, taking advantage of my ticklish nature," smirked Naruto. Sakura smiled and stuck her tongue out in response. Naruto quickly began to repay Sakura's tickling with some tickling of his own. Sakura began laughing to the point where tears were slowly coming out of her eyes. She used one of her feet to push Naruto off of her, and then she quickly jumped on him, and then they proceeded to wrestle playfully. Little by little the wrestling became less intense as Naruto was on Sakura, pinning her down, and Sakura was struggling and about to kick in some super strength to flip Naruto over. However, that didn't happen because Naruto leaned down and stole Sakura's lips in a chaste kiss, in turn letting go of her hands and wrapping his own around her waist. Sakura followed suit by running her fingers through Naruto's hair. Sakura was lost in the kiss until she felt something stiff rub up against her thigh. She looked down and noticed how excited Naruto was. She smirked and looked up at the slightly embarrassed Naruto. It wasn't like this hadn't happened before and that she hadn't taken care of the situation. Though they hadn't gone all the way yet, however, it always managed to bring an irresistible blush to Naruto's face. Sakura looked at Naruto seductively. "Do you want me to get rid of that for you, baby?" she finished with a purr, and could have sworn that she felt it throb and grow even stiffer. "Well, if you're offering, then I don't see why not," replied Naruto, trying to be slick. With that, Sakura jumped off of the bed and headed into the washroom, leaving a terribly confused Naruto wondering what the hell she was doing. After a few seconds, Naruto could hear the shower go on and he saw Sakura come out of the bathroom with an evil grin on her face. "There, I bet a nice cold shower will take care of that problem," she winked. "You can thank me later." Naruto frowned like a saddened puppy. "Way to tease me, Sakura-chan." Sakura continued to smile. As Naruto undressed and entered the bathroom and got into the shower, he noticed something was off. The water was warm, and before he could make anything of it, the glass door and curtains that lead to the shower slid open again, and Naruto was soon accompanied by a wonderfully naked Sakura. Half an hour later, the two finished showering. As they got dressed, their happy, flirtatious mood was brought down. They knew what day it was, and regularly this day should have been celebrated and looked forward to, however that was not the case. On this beautiful Sunday, July 23rd, Naruto and Sakura were really saddened, for today was Sasuke's birthday. "Sakura-chan," voiced Naruto, "could you do something for me? I mean, it's a lot to ask, but it's really, really important." "What is it?" replied Sakura as she was putting on her sandals. "Could you give Sasuke a kiss today?" answered Naruto carefully. "What?" yelled Sakura in disbelief. "I know it's a lot to ask, Sakura, but please, he's never kissed a girl before," spoke Naruto quietly. You could see the sad feelings through his eyes. "You don't expect me to believe that the Sasuke Uchiha has never kissed a girl before, Naruto?" said Sakura with a vein popping out on her forehead. "Believe me, Sakura-chan, Sasuke, he's been opening up a lot lately, especially in the times when I've gone to see him at the hospital. He knows the end is near, and well, he's told me more personal things because you and I, well, we're the only ones who can listen," informed Naruto. Sakura's features softened as she sighed and looked at Naruto. "Naruto, I don't want to kiss anyone besides you. I know, Sakura-chan, and you'll never know how happy that makes me feel. But Sasuke's dying, Sakura-chan. He's dying. I don't want him to die without knowing what it feels like to kiss a beautiful girl," explained the Jinchuriki. "I don't have to give him tongue, do I?" pressed Sakura. "No," yelped Naruto almost defensively. "I mean, and not if you don't want to," he finished, trying to look calm. He didn't fool anyone. Sakura smiled tenderly at him. "Okay, no tongue." Naruto just smiled back. "Thank you, Sakura-chan. I love you, you know that?" Yeah, only when you force me to kiss other men." "Who's next, Gaara?" joked Sakura. Naruto's eyes flew wide open and he rushed towards Sakura, with his arms flailing in the air while yelling, No, just Sasuke." Unfortunately, the blonde buffoon tripped on his way there and landed at Sakura's feet. She knelt down and helped Naruto up. When they were face to face she grinned and inched closer, whispering, "I was just kidding," right before kissing him. Unlike this kiss she promised to give Sasuke later on, this one had plenty of tongue. The two lovers finished their little session and headed towards Sasuke's house. They were very open about their relationship, open enough to hold hands while in public. Naruto didn't want to be open about it at first because he was afraid villagers would treat Sakura like they treated him, but Sakura insisted and insisted. So Naruto caved. To their pleasant surprise, people didn't act as harshly towards Naruto anymore. Of course there always was that one jackass who didn't know when to shut up, but the two wouldn't let one bad apple ruin the bunch. The duo arrived at the doors of the Uchiha mansion. Naruto knocked and the two waited until the doors came open. They were greeted by Kakashi, who was pushing Sasuke in a wheelchair. Sasuke had a picnic basket in his lap. Sasuke looked up weakly at the two and greeted them. "Hey Sakura, Naruto. Are you ready for our picnic?" Both Naruto and Sakura's heart broke at the sight. No matter how many times they'd seen it by now, they would never get used to the sight of Sasuke Uchiha, the strongest ninja they knew, being pushed around in a chair. Both answered, yes, and greeted Kakashi as well. "How are you, Sasuke-kun? I mean, how are you doing?" asked Sakura, worried. "I'm fine," spoke Sasuke as he started to get up from the wheelchair. Naruto panicked at the sight. "Oi baka, what are you doing? You're in no condition to walk." "Naruto," spoke Sasuke in a loud voice for the first time in what seemed like months, "I'm not going to spend my last day in that fucking chair. Now let's go." Upon that line, Naruto and Sakura were reminded why today was such a horrible day, regardless of its beauty. "Okay Sasuke, let's go," whispered Naruto, too quiet for the rest to hear. 10 minutes later Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi came to the 3 vertical logs at Team 7's training grounds. Here the original Team 7 spent their last couple of hours as a whole. They talked about the past, they joked and laughed. They bonded even more. They ate and scolded Naruto's poor manners, which Sakura solved with a fierce blow to the head. Then everyone was quiet. Naruto spoke up. "Hey Kakashi-sensei, let's go take this garbage away, okay?" Kakashi just nodded and helped Naruto gather all the trash. As they started to head to the trash bin, which was a good 5-minute walk away, Naruto looked back over his shoulder and winked at Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke was confused, and Sakura got the message. Sakura leaned into Sasuke and said, "Sasuke-kun, could I have one favor from you? Be before you die?" finished Sasuke in a tone too comfortable for the situation. "Why yeah," shuddered Sakura. "Sure, what is it I can do for you?" replied Sasuke. Sakura looked down and then mumbled, "See, could I have a kiss?" "Huh?" was Sasuke's response. "What about Naruto? I thought you loved him." Sakura quickly explained, "I do. I mean it was his suggestion and well, this is the last day I'm ever going to see you so." "Okay," said Sasuke. He leaned in and the two pressed their lips to one another. It was soft. There wasn't passion, or the kind of love that lovers put into this kiss. This kiss had one feeling to it, it was the feeling of thanks. For Sasuke it said, "Thanks for forgiving me. Thanks for showing me the error of my ways. Thanks for being there." For Sakura it said, "Thanks for helping me let go of my childish nature. Thanks for pushing me to grow. Thanks for returning your friendship." As the two parted, they took solace in the fact that this certain kiss didn't bring up any confusing emotions, or didn't leave them with any doubt or regret. Sasuke now knew the beautiful feeling of a woman's lips, and Sakura, this made her love Naruto even more. This was because even though Naruto helped her get over her childish feelings, he had allowed her to get something she had yearned for as a child for a very long time. The kiss of her first love. Though her first love wasn't nearly as powerful as her love for Naruto was, this gesture helped her getting a sense of closure and finally conclude this certain chapter of her life. Sakura would never be able to think, "I could never get that kiss from Sasuke," because now she had got it and the turmoil from her younger days was over, and it would never be anything she would dwell on again. One thought now came to Sakura's mind, "I can't wait to kiss Naruto again." The thought brought a smile to her face. As Naruto and Kakashi returned, Naruto smirked, "Anything interesting happen while we were gone?" Sasuke smirked back at him because he knew this was all Naruto's plan. Nothing you'd be interested in, Dobi. "Whatever you say," finished Naruto as he and Kakashi sat down. Now the sun was setting and Sasuke's strength was all but gone. All of Team 7 was lying down together close by each other. His eyes were slowly closing, his peace was disrupted by Naruto's loud concerned shrieks, "Sasuke! Sasuke!" Sasuke smirked and replied calmly as if he was in a state of euphoria, "SSSSSHH Dobi. It's okay, I feel nice. Thank you all. You took me back after what I did to you. I'm way too lucky to have had you guys as friends." "Sasuke," sighed Kakashi, "I'm sorry, if only I'd done a better job." "No," interrupted Sasuke peacefully, "it was my choice, no blame falls on you or anyone else. I'll never blame you for anything, Kakashi-sensei. You were the first adult to ever care for me personally after my parents passed away. You gave me strength and taught me the truth values of a shinobi, even if I mucked them up a bit, hehehe. Kakashi-sensei, you used that Sharingan with its original purpose in mind, better than any Uchiha in history. I wish I could have learned to protect with my eyes the way you're protected with yours. Now let me see your face before I go." Kakashi nodded and chuckled as he slid his mask down to show his crying face. "He. You probably needed more protection from fangirls than I did," chuckled the lone Uchiha. He then turned to Sakura. "Sasuke-kun," said Sakura as tears bit her eyes. "Sakura, thank you for your love when we were younger," said Sasuke calmly. "You really were more special than the rest of those kunoichi. You really grew, Sakura, you grew from the weak little girl who followed me around aimlessly to the powerful medic whom shoulders the burden of saving the lives of our shinobi. You're the strongest woman I know, physically and metaphorically. Don't you let anyone ever tell you you're useless, because you've done things that I, even when I had my Sharingan, couldn't dream of accomplishing. You'll be an amazing mother one day. Thank you, Sasuke-kun," she whispered. He smiled at Sakura, then turned his head to the last person there. "Can't believe it has come to this, Dobi," said Sasuke as his breathing became harder. "Yeah," sobbed Naruto in agreement. "Well, where do I start? You are the strongest person to ever grace the plane of existence, Naruto. You bear the largest burden of us all. Every day you kept us safe and suffered loneliness as the price. You understood me best, Naruto, you gave so much for me. You suffered unbearable pain for me, you never ever let me down. I looked up to you, Naruto, I never admitted it, but when you beat Gaara, I looked up to you. I was jealous because I felt you were stronger than me. I still look up to you, you'll become a great Hokage. I thank all my lucky stars that you and I were friends," said Sasuke. "We weren't friends," said Naruto amidst his tears. Sasuke looked surprised and hurt, but then Naruto spoke up again, we are brothers." Sasuke smiled more warmly than he ever had his entire life. "Yeah, brothers, family. And since we are family, I want you to take my necklace. It belongs to those within the Uchiha family. So they belong to you after I'm gone, Naruto." "Sasuke," murmured Naruto. Then Sasuke spoke to his last three precious people at the same time. "Thank you, all of you, for the best birthday of my life. I. And with his last bit of strength as his eyes closed, Sasuke whispered, "I love all of you." And then Sasuke Uchiha, sole survivor of the Uchiha clan, a prodigy deemed to accomplish great things for his village, died that evening under the sunset. With the people he loved. "That night was hard on all of us," spoke Sakura as she startled her husband. Naruto turned around and smiled at his beautiful wife. She at 42 looked breathtaking and marvelous. "Sakura-chan, how many times have I told you to not use Ba-chan's youth genjutsu?" said the tall, blonde cage of fire. "Naruto, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't use that jutsu? Why do you never believe me?" growled the aggravated woman. "I'm sorry, it's just that every day you seem to get more beautiful, my love. And the older I get, the more I start thinking my eyes are playing tricks on me." The Hokage as he pulled his wife in for a kiss. After the kiss, Sakura smiled playfully and poked him in the chest. "Ha. You just say that so you can get the goods, Naruto. You'd think after 22 years of marriage you'd get tired of me." "Never," exclaimed Naruto as if it were the truest thing in the world, and in his life it was. "I love you, Naruto, never change," she said as she kissed him. Then she turned to look at the grave. She smiled and said, "Hey Sasuke-kun. Is Naruto bothering you again? He never changes, does he?" Both Naruto and Sakura laughed. Naruto spoke again. I was just taking a stroll down memory lane with Sasuke over here. How far are you? Asked Sakura. Do you mind if I stroll along with you too? Not at all, I don't think Sasuke minds either, said Naruto lightheartedly, and the memory we're at right now was our wedding, our official one. I liked our first one better, said Sakura, remembering the wedding she had with just Team 7. Me too, agreed Naruto, but the other one was good too. Yes, it was, agreed his ever-beautiful, pink-headed wife as she fell into the bliss of the memory. Flashback 22 years ago. Naruto is 20, Sakura is 20. Naruto's nerves were on end. There he was in a tuxedo, watching Sakura coming down the aisle with her father's arm locked in her own. Naruto was so glad that Sakura's parents had began to like him. At the beginning they hated him. They blamed him for tainting Sakura with his demonic magic and whatnot. However, they slowly started to see how wrong they were about the boy. They saw him for he was not what he contained. Sakura's parents felt ashamed, and thankful to Naruto for protecting their daughter. One time, on a mission, Sakura was injured so greatly that Naruto ditched the mission and brought Sakura back to Konoha whilst using the Hiraishin. Once he had Sakura back in Konoha, he couldn't go back to complete his duty because it required a seal. In his panic for Sakura, he forgot all about it and was much more greatly concerned about the love of his life. So he failed the mission. He didn't care, much to Sakura's protests and screams, followed by tears and thanks and confessions of how much she loved him. To Naruto it was worthwhile. Even Tsunade did not punish him, she went over the kill the emotions bullshit, but Naruto could tell she was just as glad about his choice as he was. That night while Sakura was resting in the hospital, Naruto would have stayed but he was forced out, literally. Tsunade had thrown him out of the window on the 12th floor after he refused to leave Sakura for the 15th time. So as Naruto was eating some ramen at his and Sakura's apartment, he was surprised when the Harunos, having been informed of what happened on the mission, had come to the apartment and begged forgiveness from Naruto. They were on their knees and everything. That was when Naruto knelt down in between the two and grabbed them both in a one-armed hug each and explained that he forgave them. Now he was here waiting for the most beautiful women in the world to join him in holy matrimony. Naruto looked down in the crowd, everyone was there. Lee and Tenten sitting together and cheering out loud. Something about the fire of youth, but Naruto wasn't paying them too much attention. Then there was Shikamaru, who had a bored expression on his face, but Naruto wasn't mad at him for that. Heck, he had a bored expression on at his own wedding. Ino was crying tears of joy when she saw Sakura in her dress and walking with her father. Following them there was Choji and Ayame. The two had started dating, and were at Naruto's wedding as an official couple for the first time. They looked so happy and they both sent Naruto caring smiles. After that there was Kiba and his girlfriend. Hitomi, Naruto remembered was her name. Kiba was whistling at Sakura and giving Naruto a wink. Naruto chuckled as Kiba's hit Kiba on the head and said, "What a dog." "You don't even want to know," thought Naruto. Shino was quiet and gave Naruto an approving nod, which was more than Naruto ever expected to get, so he simply nodded back. Shino had yet to find a girlfriend, but Naruto remembered something about an arranged marriage and was happy to know that Shino told him that he'd liked that girl for a long time. So Naruto was happy. After Shino there was Konohamaru and his girlfriend Hanabi. Konohamaru yelled, "I knew she loved you, boss. Woot woot." And Hanabi looked away, embarrassed by her boyfriend's childlike behavior. Neji and Hinata showed up for a bit to give Naruto their congratulations. They told him they were sorry that they didn't have a wedding gift for him at the moment, but they'd get him one as soon as they had the chance. This was due to the fact that they had important clan business and they didn't even have enough time to stay at the wedding. Naruto knew they were being honest and didn't blame them for not having time to get him a meaningful gift. He knew they'd never get him anything crappy, because he'd been a big part of both their lives. The future Hokage knew that Hinata and Neji, now married, making them both the clan heads, were extremely busy with the council because they were planning on getting rid of the caged bird seal. The council was split on this decision and negotiations were rigorous. So Naruto told them not to worry about it. He also added that he'd help them and take their side when he became Hokage. They thanked him for that gesture, for they knew that it would not be long before Naruto ascended to claim that spot. Naruto then looked to the people seated to the left. There was Sakura's family, mostly cousins and grandparents and people Naruto met briefly but thought were nice. Then he saw Sakura's mother who gave him a wink. Naruto blushed at that. Then Naruto turned to his right to look at the space that was designated to his family. One of Naruto's initial fears of this wedding was that his side of the family seating was going to be empty, yet he was wrong. He was incredibly wrong. There was Jiraiya with Tsunade, who both looked at him. Jiraiya had a proud smile and mouthed the words so Naruto could read his lips, "Give me honeymoon details." Naruto's eye twitched and a vein popped on his forehead. Damn arrow Sennin, thought the blonde. Next he saw Tsunade, who had tears in her eyes and was smiling very brightly. Sitting beside Tsunade was Kakashi along with Anko. The two were now a couple. Kakashi was grinning so hard you could see it through the mask. Anko had a sadistic smile. She's probably thinking about my and Sakura-chan's honeymoon, Naruto thought with a shudder. Beside them were Iruka and Shizune, who were also together. Heck, they were married and had 2 children. One 4-year-old daughter named Takara who was sitting on her father's lap, and a 2-year-old son named Kazuki, pronounced Kisuke, currently in Shizune's hands. Iruka had the face of a proud father, and Shizune was also very happy for Naruto. He was the godfather of their children after all. After Iruka and Shizune there was a picture of the Yondaime Hokage, Arashi Uzumaki, and his wife Kasumi Kazama. Kasumi was a beautiful woman with pitch-black hair that went down past her shoulders. Her eyes were a heavenly shade of blue. Her face was one that showed beauty and love. It was made evident that these were Naruto's parents. He'd learned the fact a while ago. Unfortunately, both the Uzumaki and Kazama clans were long gone and there were barely any traces left. This didn't bother Naruto, he was just happy to know his parents were honorable people. Finally there was a stand that had a picture of Sasuke. No one thought it odd that his picture had the front seat closest to Naruto and Sakura. Everyone knew about their history, so no one questioned anything. Naruto was glad Sasuke hadn't missed their wedding. This Sasuke here might only be a photo, but Sasuke was there for the real wedding years ago. That thought brought Naruto peace. Then Naruto turned his head to Sakura, who had arrived up on the altar. She let go of her father and faced Naruto. The minister said his words, and went on with the usual ordeal of marrying 2 people. Naruto and Sakura weren't listening to a word he said, they were both lost in the other's eyes. The rings? There was a pause as Naruto and Sakura didn't respond. The minister gave a confused look and asked again, this time with a little more volume, "Are you going to take the ring?" "Huh," replied both Naruto and Sakura. Then they noticed that Sakura's 4-year-old cousin was standing there holding the rings up. Then they realized that they were booked and both blushed. The entire crowd laughed at the obvious love the two had for each other. As they took the matching rings, Sakura looked at the ring Naruto had gotten her. It was beautiful. In all honesty, it wasn't as glamorous as the one Sasuke had gotten them for their first wedding, yet she liked this one more because it was simpler and more beautiful in her opinion. That was the great thing about it, was that Naruto had known what her opinion would be. The ring was a white gold band with words going around the outside. The words were done in emerald and said, "My love for you is like this ring, it has no start and no finish. It just keeps going around." Naruto. The one Naruto had was the same except the words were in sapphire and said, "You'll never understand how much you mean to me. I've always been yours, even before I knew it." Sakura. The two had pre-ordered the rings. It did take away from the surprise, but the end product was worth it. So as they exchanged vows and said, "I do," they both thought, "I'm glad Sasuke got to see this before he left." "That was a nice memory," chided Sakura. "MHHMM," responded Naruto. Then the sound of a pager going off was heard. "Shit," exclaimed Sakura. "Look honey, I gotta go, I have an appointment in 20 minutes. Don't worry though, I'll be back and the kids will be with me too, okay?" "Yeah, okay Sakura-chan, I'll see you then," waved Naruto as Sakura turned away to leave, but not before giving Naruto a sweet kiss goodbye. "Bye, Sasuke-kun, I'll see you in a bit," said Sakura, and with a wave and, poof, she was gone. Naruto turned back to the gravestone. "Yo Teme, I still have to thank you for helping me complete my other dream." "My first dream," said Naruto as yet another wave of remembrance hit the blonde. Flashback 22 years ago. Naruto is 20, Sakura is 20. 1 month after Naruto and Sakura's marriage. Naruto had come back. His mission was complete. He'd killed the Akatsuki leader. The mission had taken him a week to complete. 4 days to find the leader, who at the time was the last remaining Akatsuki member. The actual fight had lasted 3 full days, and it was the closest to death Naruto had ever been. Naruto stumbled into the village and the Anbu at the gates quickly took him to the hospital where Sakura was the first to look at his wounds and heal him. Sakura was angry with him. This mission had been a suicide mission. The council had never wanted Naruto to be Hokage. So in order to get him off their backs they agreed to Tsunade's proposal of making him Hokage if he could complete a mission that would deem him worthy of the title. That was a stupid thing to do on Tsunade's part as the council quickly jumped at the chance to send Naruto off to destroy the remaining Akatsuki member, alone. Naruto jumped at this opportunity. Tsunade and Sakura tried to talk him out of it, but still Naruto continued. The week that Naruto was gone plagued Sakura intensely. She had faith in her blonde knucklehead but she was terrified. Every night she had bad dreams about his body being found dead. However, when she finally saw him in the emergency room all bandaged up like a mummy, her worries were all washed away. Naruto grinned at her, and she grinned back, before smashing his head with her fist and yelling at him about how worried she was. So Naruto came back and tried as the council they knew they couldn't stop his rise to the title of Hokage. So as Naruto sat on the hospital bed while Sakura fed him ramen, much to Naruto's happiness, Sakura began asking Naruto about how he beat the Akatsuki leader. Naruto's response was, "I couldn't have done it without Sasuke's help." "What do you mean? Sasuke passed away 2 years ago, Naruto," said Sakura while thinking of the meaning behind his words. Well, Naruto began explaining how Sasuke helped him fight the Akatsuki leader. Flashback within a flashback. 25 years ago. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke are 17 years old. 9 months after Sasuke's return, Sasuke had summoned Naruto to his home for an important discussion. The two were now sitting in their designated seats. Naruto on his favorite recliner and Sasuke on the double couch. "Naruto, I know the Akatsuki won't stop till they get you." "Well, till he gets you. The leader that is, he's the only one left," said Sasuke as Hei lay down with his feet up. "So what? We kicked Itachi's ass all over the floor when we met him. What could the leader possibly do to us? You and I both know that Uchihas are the toughest kind of enemy. Next to Itachi this guy should be a wimp," responded a worry-free Naruto from a reclined position on his favorite chair. "Naruto, that has got to be the most naive shit I've ever heard," responded Sasuke forcefully. "Geez, calm down Teme. No need to rip my head off," replied Naruto defensively. "Naruto, Itachi would only take orders from people stronger than he was. This leader must obviously be a more powerful opponent," informed Sasuke. "How is that possible? To be more powerful than Itachi he'd need Sharingan," replied Naruto. Sasuke sighed. "Naruto, there are shinobi who have overcome Sharingan before, you know that. The Yondaime was Hokage in a time when Konoha was full of Uchiha." Naruto smiled at the thought, "So the leader doesn't have Sharingan. That's a relief. I was about to shit my. I didn't say that," intervened Sasuke, "the leader does have Sharingan." "Sasuke, what the fuck? You got my hopes up and everything," answered Naruto, "and how do you know the leader has Sharingan?" "I know his identity. I found out when Itachi got me in the Tsukuyomi. My Sharingan combated his and though I couldn't overcome him without you guys getting me out of it in time, I could look into his mind as I fought back. I found out that the Akatsuki leader was Shisui Uchiha," said Sasuke. "Who the hell is that?" asked a confused Naruto. "An Uchiha who was even more gifted with Sharingan than Itachi himself. Everyone was an idiot to have thought that Itachi could have killed him. I remember seeing them spar once. Shisui ran circles around Itachi," replied Sasuke. "Then how am I supposed to beat him?" asked Naruto. "When we beat Itachi it was me, you and Sakura-chan. You aren't in any condition to fight, and while I don't give a fuck, I'll never put Sakura-chan anywhere near that kind of danger." "Yeah, I know," responded Sasuke. "That's why I'm going to teach you a technique that'll help you beat Itachi. I tried to use, but even with my Sharingan I wasn't able to use it perfectly because I created it and I had to work the kinks out. I never had the time, Naruto, because it's an S+ class genjutsu. It can't be dispelled. You Naruto can get hundreds of years worth of training done in a few months, so you can perfect it." "Sasuke, I was never good with genjutsu, I don't know if This is different, it's a ninjutsu, yet it's a genjutsu at the same time, said Sasuke. What? Asked a terribly confused Naruto. Just shut up and let me explain, said Sasuke. Back with Naruto and Sakura 22 years ago. 1 month after Naruto and Sakura's marriage. So aren't you going to tell me how the ninjutsu genjutsu works? Asked Sakura after Naruto had explained that Sasuke had taught him a powerful and complicated technique. She continued, how did it entrap an Uchiha? Technically it didn't entrap Itachi. This is hard to explain. See, genjutsu affects the mind and Uchiha's eyes prevent the chakra from altering the visions they capture. Naruto, I know how genjutsus work, natural genjutsu type here. Cut in Sakura, just get to the good stuff. Naruto was surprised by her snappiness. Wow, I'm glad you aren't this impatient when we have. Naruto, okay, said the blonde as he waved his hands in front of his face. Well, this technique doesn't affect the mind. It actually affects the weather conditions. Huh? Stammered Sakura. What the fuck does that have to do with beating an Uchiha? Yeah, I'm getting to that part. Okay, well, the Sharingan may be incredibly powerful eyes, but that is the trick to beating them. They're just eyes. Their incredible copying and chakra seeing aside, they work in the same way regular eyes do, explained Naruto. Meaning, pressed Sakura. Meaning that they see an object based on the light reflected off its surface, answered Naruto. Where do weather conditions fit in? Asked Sakura. Well, now maybe you'll appreciate how hard this technique was to learn, said Naruto. It took me 2 years of training with 300 clones. That's 600 years of training. Not to mention I had to learn the water element, which was completely new to me. And Naruto, you're blabbing, you still haven't explained how the technique works, mediated Sakura. Fine, cut my hard work down to nothing, whined Naruto as he got on with the good details. The reason I had to learn how to manipulate water and weather conditions was so that I could control the moisture in the air. In doing that, I could refract the light in the area of my jutsu so that the images that my opponent received were not what they actually appeared to be. If I refract the light to the left through the medium of the water, the image will appear more to the left, while the object is actually more to the right. Understand? That's fucking awesome, Shanaru, yelled Sakura. What genius technique, it's a genjutsu, but it isn't. You can actually fool an Uchiha with it. Yeah, it was created by one hell of a ninja, said Naruto. It was named Adouchi no Maburoshi no Jutsu, Vision of Vengeance technique. Seeing as it was created by Sasuke to kill Itachi. Well, how did you finish him? Asked Sakura, now even more interested. Well, we fought around for 3 days, like battle and run and hide. Trust me, it was nerve-wracking. He understood that this Sharingan was being fooled, so he tried long-range fighting and whatnot. However, once I managed to get close to him again, I used the technique and also made a clone charge a Rasengan. I refracted the light to that it appeared that the clone and I were the same body, and when he tried to block me, then Naruto raised his right arm, which was thoroughly bandaged, and shot it forward to add more drama to his storytelling. My clone got him. Rasengan right in the fact. Crack. Sakura winced. Naruto had re-broken his arms as he thrust it forward while he was telling the story. Everything was really quiet for a couple of seconds. She counted down in her mind. 2, 1. AAARRRRRGGGGHHHHH. The voice of the new Hokage could be heard throughout the whole village. Thanks for helping me become Hokage, admitted Naruto to Sasuke's grave. Would you believe me if I told you that you gave me even more? Yeah, I tell you about my kids all the time, I know. I can't help it. Without your help I would have never had this family I have now, and parts of my childhood come back to me when I think about my kids. I'm reminded of our time together, ranted Naruto. He was then drawn to the memory of when his first child was born. Flashback 20 years ago. Naruto is 22 and Sakura is 23. Naruto, yelled Sakura as she had a death grip on Naruto's hand. When she squeezed, Naruto thought his hand would break, and this was with no chakra added. I'm here, Sakura-chan. Just one last push, supported Naruto, never leaving her side once during the 5 hours of childbirth. Naruto, we are never having again, yelled Sakura in pain. Aside from his worry and supportive acts, all Naruto was thinking was, she's bluffing. She's gotta be bluffing. I mean, I hope she's bluffy. Hey, holy shit, that's my baby boy. Congratulations, you two. said Tsunade with a smile on her face as she handed the baby to Sakura, who crying mad tears of joy. Naruto, he looks just like you. Wait, actually he looks more like your father, finished Sakura as she looked at her little mini Arashi. Come here and hold him, Naruto, you're a daddy now. Those words hit Naruto harder than anything he'd ever experienced before. I'm a daddy, thought Naruto to himself as he held his boy in his arms. The little baby looking at him through crystal green eyes. It was a shame that those eyes would soon be black, but in the end it would be worth it. Hey there little guy, said Naruto as the baby gripped his index finger. You haven't cried yet, even while being born. You're a tough little guy, just like your daddy. PFFFT, snorted Sakura. You looked like you were going to faint, and I was the one giving birth. Shows how tough you are, she finished with a smile. I was just worried, okay? Said Naruto as he leaned down and kissed Sakura's forehead, and then looked back at his son who still hadn't made a noise. But he was smiling. What's the boy's name going to be? Asked Tsunade as she was filling information out on a clipboard she was holding. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other and smiled. Then Naruto looked back up at Tsunade and in his clearest voice answered, Sasuke. Sasuke Uzumaki. Okay. Sasuke Uzumaki, born August 21st. Should I start with the operation then? Asked Tsunade as Naruto handed Sasuke back to Sakura. Naruto and Sakura quickly became worried at the notion. Their baby was just born, and they didn't want it to go under the knife. Don't worry, assured Tsunade. I promise that everything will be fine. I'll make sure that you can't tell the baby ever had an operation. Sakura and Naruto relaxed. They knew they could trust Tsunade. As Tsunade took the baby, the nurses attended to Sakura, and Naruto gave Tsunade a small case which was about the size of a case that would hold sunglasses. In this case were one of Naruto's most important belongings. The dreams of his best friend, the Sharingan of Sasuke Uchiha. Soon to be Sharingan of Sasuke Uzumaki. 1 week later, Naruto and Sakura were home getting used to being parents. Of course they had Iruka and Shizune to help them along the way, and also Ino would step in to support Sakura if she really needed her. Kakashi and Anko also had a baby a few months earlier, however the two weren't married yet. Their daughter was a beautiful silver-haired girl named Kamiko. Her eyes were black as night, but everyone could tell she was going to be breathtaking when she became a woman. Kakashi too wanted to give his Sharingan to his daughter, but he had to wait till she was a bit older because his Sharingan was given to him while it was active, so he had to wait till Kamiko was at least 3 or 4 to make sure she wouldn't collapse due to chakra exhaustion. Then maybe her body could adapt to the Sharingan enough so that she would be able to turn it off. Everything was in the maybe stage about that, so Kakashi didn't give it too much thought. Shikamaru and Ino also had a child named Asuma. Asuma was currently 1 year old. He had black hair and blue eyes. He liked to sleep a lot. A habit he got from his father, which made his father happy. That was because the longer he slept, the longer he'd keep quiet, the less troublesome he'd be. Naruto also found out that he and Sakura had created a bloodline limit. Their ability wasn't spectacular, or incredible like Sharingan or Byakugan. It was just a whole lot more useful. Naruto's child had the amazing ability to heal himself like his father, yet he had no red chakra, from what any Hyuga clan member could tell with their Byakugan. This made Sakura and Naruto very happy because it meant that their child was a lot less vulnerable than most would be at his age. Naruto knew life had taken a great turn as he looked at his son, and into the eyes of his best friend. Somehow he could feel that Sasuke Uchiha was looking back. Slowly he took the necklace that Sasuke had given him a long time ago. They held 2 Uchiha pendants. One belonging to Sasuke, and the other to Itachi. He put Sasuke's around his son's neck. I always knew my kids were going to be trouble, Sasuke. I had no doubt in my mind, spoke Naruto as the subject matter brought more light feelings to his mind, but I didn't expect them to be just as competitive as you and I were. Naruto laughed out loud at the thoughts of his kids. They're just like we were. You should see how Sasuke and Hiro fight with one another. I promise you that you'd laugh. Yet they beyond the fighting and scrapping, they care about each other and their sisters Tsunade and Chiyo. Many memories came back to Naruto at once as he thought of the interactions he had with his kids. Flashback 16 years ago. Naruto is 26 and Sakura is 26. This was the second time Sakura had been in the delivery room, and Naruto thought he'd be used to it by now. How wrong he was. One baby he could handle, but the fact that Sakura was having twins blew his mind. Fortunately the delivery was very smooth, well as smooth as can be considering the circumstances, and the babies both came out very healthy and crying furiously, unlike their 4-year-old brother who was in the waiting room with Kakashi, Anko and Kamiko. Most kids would be excited as hell at the thought of having a new sibling, much less two. However, Sasuke, like his predecessor before him, knew how to keep his cool and pretended as if it weren't a big deal. Though truthfully the miniature Yondaime couldn't be more thrilled. In the delivery room Tsunade had both babies in her arms and handed one to Sakura, and one to Naruto. Naruto held a baby girl in his arms. She was gorgeous. She had blonde hair with some strands of pink. Her eyes were red. No slits or anything demonic, just a deep shade of red that seemed to glow when you looked into them. Her eyes were breathtaking. The girl looked very much like Sakura. Naruto was amazed at their similarities. She also had the same seal on her belly button as Naruto had put on him before receiving the Kyuubi. When Naruto asked what it meant, Tsunade simply replied that she took on the traits of her father more than his other two children. She would also be the only one that would be able to use the red chakra. Though the capacity of all three of his children were all the same. Sakura held in her hands a young boy. He looked exactly like his father except no whiskers, like all of Naruto's children, whereas his brother resembled their grandfather more. This was a good thing as Naruto did not look exactly like Arashi did. Yes, there were resemblances to hint at the fact that they were related, but Naruto had different features from his mother that altered his looks, yet kept him just as handsome as his father in his own ways. Sakura was glad because she knew both her boys would be just as handsome and still have their own unique qualities to them. "So what are their names?" asked Tsunade for the second time to Naruto and Sakura. This time Sakura answered, "Well, the girl we decided to name Tsunade after someone that is very precious to us," responded Sakura with a smile. Tsunade was speechless as her face grew to have a huge smile and her eyes shone with blissful emotions. "Thank you, I'm very honored." "No problem, Ba-chan," exclaimed Naruto, ruined the moment completely. After getting rid of the vein in her forehead Tsunade continued, "And the boy's name?" "Hiro," answered Sakura after sharing a smile. "Ah, named after Sandaime Hokage I presume?" pressed Tsunade as she scribbled some notes down on the clipboard. "Yup," answered Naruto brightly. "Okay, Tsunade and Hiro Uzumaki born January 21st. Wow, exactly 7 months apart from their brother's birth date," said Tsunade before adding, "I think Jiraiya will be sad that you didn't name a kid after him." "I was going to, before I found out that his latest Icha Icha novel displayed everything Sakura and I did on our honeymoon," said an angry Naruto. "Which wouldn't have happened if you hadn't said anything, Baka," yelled Sakura. "I told you, Sakura-chan, I gave him the PG-13 version," defended Naruto. "Nothing that happened during our honeymoon was PG-13, fired Sakura. "Ahem," voiced Tsunade, "as much as I'd love to know what happened during your honeymoon. You can find out, just go buy his damn book," shot Naruto. "Naruto," growled Tsunade, angry with the fact that Naruto interrupted her, "as I was saying, as much as I'd love to know what happened during your honeymoon, I need to take the babies to make sure everything is fine." "Okay," responded Naruto sadly as he didn't want to give up his little daughter. "Poor little Hiro, you won't have any special traits besides your accelerated healing. Your brother has Sharingan and your sister has daddy's red chakra. But it's okay, you'll find a way to keep up with them," said Sakura tenderly to her little Naruto clone as he'd stopped crying and cuddled up to her mommy. Just then there was a knock on the door. Naruto said, "Come in," thinking it was probably Sasuke and Kakashi coming to check up on Sakura. That's why everyone was surprised when Hinata and Neji entered. "Hey you two, what are you guys doing here?" asked Naruto, really confused at the moment. "Hey Naruto-kun, we finally resolved the sealing issue with the Hyuga clan," answered Hinata, having lost her stuttering problem a long while ago. That's great, but don't you think you could have waited till after this to tell me that?" "Sorry, but now really isn't the greatest time," said Naruto. "We had to keep our promise to you, Naruto-kun. I know it is a little overdue, but we have your wedding gift and if we don't give it to you now you'll never be able to use it," said Neji with a smirk. What?" asked Sakura. "Well," sighed Hinata, and then looked to Neji who nodded for her to continue, "when I was younger, I always dreamed of giving Naruto a child with the Byakugan. Naruto couldn't help but take the opportunity to slide in a joke. Well, if the offer still stands, I'm willing to give it a go, chuckled the Hokage as he showed his joking smile. Hinata laughed, Neji and Sakura rolled their eyes. That wasn't what I had in mind, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, getting serious. I wanted to give you these as a present for your next child. Hinata held out a case that was a bit bigger than the average television remote. This case contains the Hyuga's bloodline limit. Byakugan. Hinata. I can't accept those, said Naruto warmly as his heart was melting at his friend's kind gesture. Please Naruto-kun, pressed Neji, it would be a great favor to us if you took them. See, the young girl whom these eyes belonged to was named Kutoyama. She was even more blessed with Byakugan than I or Hanabi were when we were younger. Her dream was to one day have a Hokage who had Byakugan. You know how Hyugas have little to no chance of being Hokage. Yeah, agreed Naruto. He knew the truth. Hyugas usually were not considered for the Hokage title because the Hyuga clan was a major clan in the council. The rest of the council did not like being overwhelmed by having a Hyuga as Hokage and as a major position in the council. It simply gave the Hyugas too much power and say in the village's affairs. Well, Kutoyama wanted to change that, so she trained very hard and was prospering. She was growing into an incredible ninja. Anbu by the age of 11. Then she caught a sickness with no cure. Even Sakura tried to heal her and she couldn't cure her sickness, continued Neji. Sakura looked down shamefully. She remembered that she could do nothing to help that particular Hyuga girl. Tsunade had told her that there was nothing she could have done anyways, yet Sakura still felt terrible for failing. Don't worry, Sakura-san, ushered Hinata as she patted Sakura's back supportively. We know there was nothing that could be done. That is why her final request was to give her eyes to someone who could use them to fulfill her dreams after she was gone. To become Hokage and hold the Hyuga bloodline for everyone to acknowledge, said Neji as he neared his conclusion. That is why I offer you this eyes, Naruto-kun, for one of your children to carry on Kutoyama's dream. Please take them. Naruto looked over at Sakura, who looked down at Hiro and smiled. I guess you're getting a special gift now too, little guy. Tsunade, do you mind doing another operation? Do I look like an eye doctor? Joked Tsunade before quickly saying, of course. Then before Tsunade could take the babies, Naruto gave Hiro his other Uchiha pendant. It may have belonged to Itachi, but the fact that it symbolized the connection between Hiro and his older brother Sasuke made it worth it. Finally Naruto looked down at his baby girl. He didn't have an Uchiha pendant for her. Yet little Tsunade brought her hand up and grasped Naruto's necklace, the one that her older counterpart had given her daddy. Naruto smiled. I promise you that you'll have this when you're older, okay? The little girl released her grip from the pendant and looked into her daddy's eyes as if to say, okay daddy. Fast forward 10 years. Naruto and Sakura are 38. Sasuke is 16, Hiro and Tsunade are 12. And Naruto and Sakura had another child named Chiyo, currently 6. Naruto and Sakura had really gotten used to family life. Their children had grown to be strong and healthy. They all had their own personalities and made life very entertaining. Sasuke was cool and collected. By now he was a few years short of being a carbon copy of his grandfather Arashi Uzumaki. Girls loved him, they adored him. And he hated it. He wouldn't be rude to females looking for attention. But he wouldn't give them the time of day either. Well, not to all of them at least. He made an exception for Kamiko, but just because she was quiet and didn't bother him like the rest of the crazed female population in Konoha. He rarely ever acted up. Nothing could set off Sasuke's cool, well, almost nothing. The one exception being his younger brother Hiro. Hiro was loud and hyperactive. Granted, he wasn't as ridiculous as Naruto used to be, to Sakura's unending gratefulness. Hiro knew how to get under his older brother's skin. He loved bothering him, but wouldn't do it too often. Hiro's dream was to be Hokage. He would constantly go to Naruto while he had any spare time at the office and challenge him to a fight for the title of Hokage. And day after day, he would get his ass handed to him. But he was getting better. However, his dad wasn't his biggest challenge. His biggest obstacle had always been Sasuke. He wanted to beat his big brother so bad. Tsunade had the temper that no one messed with, aside from her parents. Even Hiro would not bother his twin sister when she was mad. Once her red chakra started to flare, everyone knew to give her space. Tsunade was also a very beautiful kunoichi. So many boys her age tried to get her favor, but she kindly declined every one of them so far. Her ferocity and aggressive nature made her the perfect Anbu field medic. She didn't just like to heal, she would compete with her brothers in terms of how much ass they could kick. Chio was the youngest and the only one of them with a full head of pink hair. Her eyes were turquoise and she was the most calm of the group. She was sweet and innocent and never got angry. Chio wasn't cut out for the active ninja life. She had better chakra control than anyone in her family, save her mother. Sachi did enjoy being a medic and did train in the ninja arts. However, she never really enjoyed that lifestyle. Chio was more suited to be a hospital medic, unlike her older sister who liked to go out on the field and kick just as much ass as she saved. Well, to each their own, right? Naruto looked at all of his and beamed in happiness. He and Sakura were sitting on a blanket and having a picnic with their kids. Chio and Tsunade were eating, laughing with one another. Sasuke was sitting alone and quietly eating, but everyone could tell he was extremely irritated. Hiro was being the cause of such irritation as he was constantly throwing grapes at Sasuke's head just to tick him off until Sakura scolded him about it. Naruto laughed at the sight of his family and his heart beat happily and loudly. "Hey there Naruto, we're all done everything for today," said Sakura from a distance as she and their children, now grown, came up to him. "Don't tell me he's talking to the rock again," spoke Hiro in a disrespectful tone. "Until he got swatted on the head by his father and shut up." "Sometimes you don't know when to shut up," said Tsunade with her arms crossed and an annoyed face. "Sometimes? Make that all the time," added Sasuke nonchalantly. "Aw come on guys, I think Hiro is funny," added Chio kindly. "Did I tell you that I love you the most?" said Hiro to his youngest sister upon the compliment. Chio ran and jumped on Hiro, who held the 10-year-old up in a piggyback position. "Well, hurry it along Pops," added Hiro. "I got an Anbu mission and Konohamaru Taiko will get mad if me and the Teme are late." Sasuke's face scrunched up at the mentioning of Hiro's nickname for him. Sakura just sighed, too tired to scold him again about calling his brother names. "Well, it seems that I have to go Teme," Naruto spoke, then added a smile, "but you know I'll be here same time next week." "Take it easy." "Bye Sasuke-kun," said Sakura. "Bye Uncle Sasuke," followed Tsunade and Chio. Naruto, Sakura, Tsunade and Chio turned around to leave. Sasuke and Hiro stayed behind. "They're all dumb, talking to a grave." "Who does that?" said Hiro with his arms crossed. Snorted Sasuke in agreement. "Like honestly, talking to a grave is one thing. Talking to this guy's grave is a whole other story. This guy must have been one big Teme to lose to a goof like our dad," said Hiro. Though he said it, Hiro didn't agree completely with his statement. Yes, his dad was a goof at home, but whenever Hiro did something bad that caused his mom to tell his dad, Hiro would be running for the hills. "I agree," said Sasuke. "This guy was the last Uchiha and father was stronger than him." What a Teme. Though Sasuke didn't act like it, he was really proud of his dad, like his brother. They were both just trying to play cool right now. "Yeah, this guy was definitely a Teme," followed Hiro. Then the two were quiet. Everything slowed down and the wind quickly swirled around them, picking up some leaves. Very quietly amongst the sounds of nature the wind seemed to whisper, "Dobes." "Did you hear that?" exclaimed Hiro. "I don't know what you're talking about," said Sasuke, trying to hide the fact that he heard the sound too. "Don't play dumb with me, I know you heard it Teme," accused Hiro. "Stop being such a doby," commented Sasuke. "Aha, you never call me doby. You always call me baka," pressed Hiro. "You did hear it Teme." "Phew, I thought I was going crazy." "Shut up, people are going to think we are crazy if we start saying we could hear dead people taking," snapped Sasuke. Yeah, whatever. Come on, we gotta go get ready for our mission to Suna. I want to meet Gaara again. Challenge him to a match. Gotta be able to kick Kasuke's ass if I want to be the Hokage, said Hiro as he headed home. You're going to refer to him as Kasuke-sama. And you will not challenge him to another duel. Remember what happened last time. You had sand up your ass for a month, said Sasuke, cringing at the memory as he followed his younger brother. 2.5 weeks later. Everything was going on normally. Konohakagure was still prospering under the reign of Rokudame Hokage. Everyone was out and busy, except the two Uzumaki brothers who has just recently finished their mission in which lead them to Suna to join up with some allies and then head to the wave to retrieve a scroll. The two had some time off and decided to go to Sasuke Uchiha's grave. Today they knew they'd be alone because their dad only came on Sundays, and it was now a Wednesday and everyone was busy as hell. The two brothers came upon the gravesite. Sasuke nudged Hiro. Hiro looked back and whispered, "Why'd I have to talk to it?" "Because it's the only thing you're good at. Now ask the question," whispered Sasuke back at his younger brother. If you had seen the two, it might have been a pretty funny sight to see two large boys whispering when there was no one around. Okay, gave in the younger of the Uzumaki brothers. That was what the boys wanted. Dirt on their dad. Anything they could get for leverage because he had them beat in every way. So if they wanted something one day, they could threaten with this knowledge. Hiro turned to the gravestone and cleared his throat. Looking nervous he asked, Sasuke-tem. I mean Uncle Sasuke. Could why you tell us how much of dweeb our old man was back in the day? Everything was quiet once again, and the wind swirled around the young boys. And if you'd been there that day, you might have heard the wind laugh. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.